They signed a pledge saying they will abide, saying they will back the candidate of the party. And now they sit back, and the pledge is out there, and the press doesn't even go after them on that. They've broke their word. In my opinion, they should never be allowed to run for public office again, because what they did is disgraceful.
Donald Trump stirring the pot again there in Bangor, Maine. He did not mention any names, but made it clear he's talking about some of his former GOP rivals. His comments come as Ohio Governor John Kasich released a letter on his campaign fundraising list for down-ballot Republicans entitled The Latest. It highlights a recent Ballotpedia poll that does not seem to bode well for Trump. Quoting Kasich's letter, "Under a modeled electorate, Trump loses every swing state by 6 to 12 points. Governor Kasich wins 6 out of 7 swing states. Speaker Ryan wins 2 out of 7 swing states." Meanwhile, Trump delivers another economic speech today in New Hampshire after some of the policies he outlined in Pennsylvania sparked a Twitter spat between him and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So let's talk about all of this with Leslie Marshall, a syndicated radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Also Lars Larson, syndicated radio host on Alpha Media Networks. Lars, I know that Trump is not upset with you. You endorsed him several months ago. What do you think, though, about the wisdom of him chiding his former rivals?
I think he should chide his former rivals. John, listen, the irony of this is that the reason Trump did so well with Americans is that Americans, and particularly conservatives, are sick and tired of politicians who talk one way on the campaign trail, and then they get into office and they act entirely differently. So here you have people who made a solemn pledge that they would support the eventual nominee. Now, at the time, they would have told you there's no way that Trump will be the nominee, so they thought they were safe in making that promise. They've now decided to break that promise. Americans are sick and tired of politicians on both the left and the right who don't keep their word.
So, Leslie, is this issue a win for Donald Trump?
No, not at all. I don't think it's a lose either. I mean, this is a man that was hesitant to pledge as a Republican. This is a man in the past is questionable, has been a Republican. And right now, one of the problems that GOPers have is that this man does not share their vision, their values, and they question whether or not he's truly a conservative. So quite frankly, regardless of the one poll where he's done well, I think the GOP is right to say, and I don't think anybody should be forced right or left to vote for somebody simply because you have the same letter on your cape.
How about his challenge to the press, Lars? I mean, this is a guy who excoriates the press at every opportunity and then says, hey, the press ought to be chasing these other ex-candidates who aren't endorsing me.
Well, as long as they're in public and they're out using their names and their platforms to campaign for others, I think they should. John, it's been almost 30 years since a famous man said, read my lips, no new taxes, and we still all know where that phrase came from. And we remember that it turned out to be a lie. It was untrue. And I watched the press for 8 years beleaguer George W. Bush and say, didn't you make a mistake going into Iraq? And they would batter him with those questions and all of his spokesmen. And yet these politicians, high-profile politicians, get away with breaking openly a promise that they made to the Republican Party and to the American people. And the press is like, ho-hum, it doesn't really matter, because most of the press corps, like it or not, Leslie, are Democrats. They lean to the left. They'd like to see Hillary elected. And anything, the enemy of the enemy is my friend, anything that is going to work against Trump is something that most reporters in most American newsrooms are going to side with.
Well, yesterday in Bangor, Trump sort of indicated that he's got a fight to pick with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Normally, that is a friend of the Republican nominee. Listen to this.
There are special interests that want to have the deals that they want to have. They want to have TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. One of the worst deals. It'll be the worst deal since NAFTA. No, it'll be the worst. It'll drain the rest of your businesses out of Maine, believe me. It'll be the worst deal since NAFTA.
So, Leslie, as a Democrat, how does it make you feel to see Donald Trump battling elements that traditionally support the Republican Party?
Well, quite frankly, as a Hillary supporter, it does have me concerned because there are some people out there that think that are in unions or blue-collar workers that, hey, Trump's our guy because he doesn't like TPP, and Hillary Clinton at one time did and then changed her mind. But they don't look further when he says, hey, you know, wages, they're too high, you're making too much. You don't want to be unions. Right-to-work states create jobs and good jobs, and that historically has not been proven to be true. And with regard to what Donald Trump is doing as a Democrat, I have to say, John, look, he's attacking the Chamber of Commerce, he's attacking other Republicans, and as long as he's not attacking Hillary Clinton, the presumptive Democratic nominee, that makes we Democrats smile.
Yeah, Lars, why doesn't he spend more time going after Hillary Clinton and just, I mean, he's won the nomination. Go after the person who is, you know, trying to beat you for the Oval Office.
John, I think he's going to go after Hillary plenty, and he has already. But the reason he's going after the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is a lot of us who are conservatives as well as Republicans look at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as being part of the establishment wing, the left end of the Republican Party. And they're primarily concerned with their own best interests. And their own best interests are served by things like illegal aliens being brought into the country to keep labor prices low, and by trade deals that don't necessarily work for America. And I'm talking about all of America, not just the trade unionists. The fact is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce does not represent Republican conservatives in this country, and that's one reason Donald Trump's gone after them.
Lars Larson and Leslie Marshall. We'll get you on again. Thank you both.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.